every water system in every country that bothered to test it found pharmaceutical drugs in the water. The systems that take pharmaceutical drugs out are organized molecule structure systems. One we use at Hippocrates, big ones, are absolutely called wellness systems. There's one that's even better than that by far called living water systems. But there's a number of those systems that you look into, buy a high quality one, and you're going to be fine. The second one is distilled. I know distilled is controversial. People are going to say it's dead water, etc. As a scientist, water is water. It's hydrogen and oxygen. Now, if you think you're worried about it being dead, shake the damn thing up, dance with it, do salsa dancing, make love to it. Do I own this book? God knows, pray over it. But don't worry about it. I've been drinking distilled water, a lot of it, gallons, millions of gallons for 35 years. I have the bone density of a kid. That's simple. It doesn't rob minerals out of the body. But if you are interested in empowering the water, I never do this, because I drink green drinks and wheatgrass, put it in the window, because the UV rays are going to bring it back to life. So these waters we're positive are safe. Maybe there's other waters that also, after you filter, I would like to talk about. Alkalized waters. Ooh, good stuff. We have a system that we sell out of England. Remarkably good, but it's not a good enough filter. You've got to do what I'm talking about first. Then you put it through an alkalizer. Put tap water through an alkalizer, you're going to have a lot of charged bad water. I live in a country where there's so much corporate control, they never tell the truth. But thank God my wife comes from a country that always tells the truth, called Sweden. And Sweden, God knows, they put their foot in their mouth all the time and help us. They have a research institute, a medical research institute there. If I was funding it, I probably wouldn't do better research on better subjects. That's how remarkable it is. About 2 summers ago, they came out from Karolinska Institute, probably the most prestigious and honorable research institute in the world, and said, look, when you're a kid and you use a cell phone, by the time you're 20 years old, you're going to double your chance of blastic type of brain tumors. Double it. The Russians, you know those Russians, those communists that we all freaked out about? They did good studies too. We can't do it in the United States, they did. They did an extensive study on about 150,000 children, published it about 7 years ago. I printed this in my magazine. They show this, watch this one. Children using cell phones. Now that doesn't shock you in Europe. We're just, you're 10 years ahead of us with cell phone use to the United States. The United States, we're just catching up. My nephews in Scandinavia, when they're 2 years old and they begin to talk, they're given a cell phone. So if children below 16 use cell phones on a regular basis, up to 1 hour a week, not 1 hour a day, between 21 and 28 years old, they get 37 times higher incidence of brain cancer. So what do I think about cell phones? Well, let's add laptop computers in there. Because when I was a kid at school, they used to say, maybe occasionally older women will get ovarian cancer. Now I'm working with kids with ovarian cancer. Kids with testicle cancer. Why? You stick a high-power radioactive battery on your penis or on your vagina. What do you think is going to happen? And so that's going to do it. What do you think about, when I came here, of course, I rented a hybrid car. They gave me a choice. Do you want to pollute or do you want a hybrid car? So I rented. Guess what? The hybrid car is electromagnetic band. So I'm not polluting, but I'm zapping myself. So I may die from cancer. You follow? All of these things, man knew that electric was dangerous. We had no substance to deal with it. We used to put actually cloth around it. How many of you are old enough to remember cloth around it? What good did that do? Then they finally put real rubber around it. They said, oh, real rubber costs too much. Then they put plastic around it, and that's all the problem again. And all that radioactivity and all that energy comes out and zaps it. University of California did an interesting study on wall sockets. They said wall socket, and you know feet here pretty well. 2 feet, let's say this is where the socket, 2 feet in every direction, and 2 feet out this way, has a severely dangerous electromagnetic frequency. So they now show that a percentage of crib deaths, baby deaths, and elderly deaths were attributed to people sleeping near wall sockets. Think of this. And we're not thinking of this. Now there is an answer. I don't just give bad news, I give good news occasionally. The answer is German and Russian technology. First from the Russian space program, the Germans, who are very, very industrialists, I like this sometimes, they took the technology that was preventing the cosmonauts from aging dramatically during like a 4-day flight. They'd come back and be 20 years biologically older from the radioactivity up in the atmosphere. And they took that technology and put it in something called a BioPro. B-I-O-Pro. Now this doesn't erase it, but dramatically reduces the problem. And how it does it, it acts like a lightning rod. Now if you have a house and you don't want to be hit by lightning, what do? You stick this thing at the top. So the house isn't hit, your body's not hit, the BioPro or the lightning rod is hit. Do you follow that? It attracts the electric that your electric body would generally attract. And you don't want renegade electron hitting your body. Do you follow? So BioPros help. The best way to use cell phones is not at all. That's simple. The second best way is if you take your car, park it, and have one without hands. Just let the whole car system. But you have to be rich. The only cars that have that in are rich cars. Eventually they'll all have that. And then the third best way to do it is you put a BioPro earpiece in it, and you're a woman or a feminine man, and you carry it back. Because you have to get it away from the body. Women who put these cell phones in your bra, let's have a prayer service. Guys who stick it over here, forget it. It's nuts. So in a bag, earphone with the BioPro on it, the whole thing would cost you under $100, by the way. Think of the BioPro, what are they, $40, $50? So they're, what, how many euros? 30 euros? 25 euros? That's how to do it. Try to avoid using it. Plus that, let me give you the story on cell phones before we finish tonight. Cell phones were originally introduced to Switzerland. Why? Switzerland back in those days were by far the most affluent country on the planet. If you were a dishwasher in Switzerland, you probably made $50,000 a year there. So they introduced cell phones because they knew people would buy it. And I have to have an extremely conscious guy that came once a year to Hippocrates. He was also the man who was the head of the judicial system in Switzerland. And he told me about cell phones, and I didn't even believe him. I loved him, I trusted him, but I couldn't believe him. I said, what do you mean? You're in a car driving and you're talking on a phone? Remember the phones were big at that time? And I said, it doesn't have a wire? And he said, no. He said, cell phones don't have a wire. They weren't called cell phones then. What were they called? Mobile phones, yeah. And he, I trusted him, so I eventually believed him. And I got all excited. I said, well, how can I get one? He said, well, I got rid of one. He said, all of my friends, we bought one and we got rid of it within a year. And I said, why would you ever get rid of it? Listen to what he said. And we don't even think about this anymore. He said, I lost all of my contemplative and private time. And the younger you are today, man, the more you use this stuff. Blackberries, iPods, cell phones, laptop computers. We carry movies in the car. What the hell's wrong with us? We don't want to think at all. We don't want to get in touch with ourselves anymore. We don't want to love life anymore. We just want to be plugged in, stimulated constantly, wired all the time. So the last question answers where we began tonight. It all comes back to us. It all comes back to you. It all comes back to self-love, self-respect, and doing what it takes.